Tackling regular reviews of RWBY Volume 7 has only served to reinforce my opinion that it is usually better to judge a season or a story once you have the whole thing laid out before you. Oh boy, this volume has been a roller coaster of highs and lows, and so I was really grateful that we got a break between episodes so I could take some time to just sit back and watch the season up until this point, rewatch it so that way I could better collect my thoughts and get a better feel for what is going on. Hello everyone, welcome back to another anime and RWBY review from Camille's Harem. Not just a podcast for novice writers by novice writers, but also a YouTube channel by novice writers for novice writers. Because writing is an adventure, it's more fun with friends. And in my last review, I lambasted the last several episodes for bashing me over the head with shipbait. It was like being a fish and seeing all those tasty lures and pointy hooks. But upon rewatching, what I've realized is that this fishy situation predominantly is due to an imbalance in the show's many different elements. I appreciate that Volume 7 is putting more effort into reclaiming many of the show's charming aspects from the first 3 seasons. I really enjoyed the return to overly cartoonish moments and the witty and sometimes awkward teenage banter between the main characters, and spreading out the season over numerous smaller stories. Though I will say that if they wanted to pull that off a lot better, each episode must be at least 20 minutes long. A guy can dream, right? I also have a greater appreciation now for the darker overall story that is being told within this season as we watch Atlas and Mantle unravel, especially with this latest episode. As above, so below, it's clear to see that this season is dealing with the fallout of our heroes learning that Ozpin kept back some terrible secrets and that Salem cannot be stopped. Speculation on that later. For the monumental task ahead, the cast needs to grow and become stronger. That is what Volume 7 is seemingly all about, and that brings us to where we currently are within this volume. I think that the pacing has been really wonky though. Some episodes slow everything down to a point where it's almost uncomfortable, while others chug an entire tank of octane and don't hit the brakes. It makes watching the episodes from week to week a little frustrating, but the overall feel of viewing them back to back is pretty enjoyable in my opinion. Okay, now, I'm going to hold back final judgment on stuff like shipbaiting, pacing, and all of that for when we get to the end of the season and see what the payoff ultimately will be. For now, let's tackle Episode 9. As above, so below. First of all, I was very happy with this episode. At this point in RWBY, this is what I have wanted when it comes to the series' take on drama and mystery. It is a good thing that I don't stream my reactions live, or you would see me slowly getting closer to the screen, utterly enraptured and melding with my computer. That being said, it was not a perfect episode, if such a thing outside of Gravity Falls even exists. I was really hoping for us to dive right into the action and get that as the cliffhanger, with RWBY and company finally facing off with Goliaths and a horde of new Grimm. And Robin kind of got on my nerves at one point. For a self-made politician, you'd think that she'd be a little bit more cunning. Anyway, after the slow and meticulous episode that started us off last time in the Schnee Manor, which honestly should have been longer and had way more party, we finally get this whirlwind. It was exactly the kind of episode that we needed because it pumped life into the story. Mama Schnee came in clutch with her little espionage, and I love how Weiss didn't make us agonize for a long period of time until she used her mother's gift. Instead, she used it instantly. She was brutal and decisive, everything that we could want from her. I honestly wasn't expecting Jacques to get his comeuppance in this season. I thought that we would have a full 13 episodes in Atlas to brew over the kind of scumbag that he is, but that was not at all the case, and I personally like it. It'll be very interesting to see what other roles the Schnee family will play from this point on, and what other pies they might have been sticking their fingers into. As far as the storytelling goes in this episode, it was at its strongest. I really enjoyed it. It took many of the plot threads that we have going all the way back to the first episode of this volume, and even going back into the last volume with Cinder's last scene, and just began tying it all together. We get to see Jacques and Arthur's diabolical plots coming to light, the unrest and violence in Mantle, the Grimm attacking the city, Ironwood's blunders in diverting resources to Amnesty Tower instead of taking care of his own people, Robin's own schemes muddling up everything, and Weiss taking down her dad. Oh my gosh, it came hard, it came fast, but better yet, it all made sense. Everything is coming together in a way that was phenomenal to see. And it should mean that we get to explore some real uncharted territory from this point on. At least, hopefully so. We've got 4 episodes to go, and I hope to be impressed. But I was disappointed that we didn't get to see Oscar's reveal about the truth regarding Salem to Ironwood. Instead, we just get to see the fallout of that conversation. It'd be so much better to see the entire conversation and then get to see Ironwood's reaction. I think it would have been much more emotional that way. And it would have also given me greater confidence in Oscar's growth. That disappointment was offset by Ironwood commenting on Oscar speaking as if he were Ozpin, and as if he had been there when Oz talked about Atlas's importance to the world of Remnant. I fear that our little guy might actually be losing himself to Ozpin, slowly but surely. Oz might be silent for now, but his knowledge leaking through and even shaping how Oscar handled the ordeal is very significant. The old headmaster is very much present in this story, and it will be fascinating to see how Oscar and the others deal with that. And I think that allows me now for a bit of a segue into what I said a little while ago about how I would speculate on Salem's downfall. Remember that it was Ozpin's question about how he could take down Salem, and Jin told him, "You can't." That has been interpreted by the cast as, "We can't defeat her, she's totally unbeatable." But that is something that I find to be a huge red herring, especially if we go back to the beginning of the series altogether, where you have that dialogue between Salem and Ozpin tells Salem that her relying on the hubris and the foolishness of mankind is to totally underestimate the power of the simple people, and how when they come together they can become a mighty force. And this is something that we've seen pay off from time to time within the series, but it's not yet been entirely addressed. And I think that this is something that the crew is not really going to draw a whole much attention to until we get further along in the overall plot. But I personally think that when Jin says that Ozpin can't defeat Salem, like, that's what she honestly means, that he can't beat her, especially he alone, but that a collected group of friends and loved ones and people all throughout Remnant, the small people, can come together to topple her and her empire. And that's something that the cast is going to have to learn for themselves. But enough of my pontificating and theorizing right there. Let's continue on with the review. Based off of what we saw between Ironwood and Ozpin, I will also add that I am pretty certain that Ironwood is going to try to find some kind of way to extract Oz from Oscar. This episode pretty much confirmed how much Ironwood wants Oz's support and wisdom. It's a very subtle and manly way of screaming, "Notice me, senpai!" But yeah, like I said, I'm going to now return to my review. What I really loved is that we got to see Neo and Cinder coming back into the mix. I'm happy that they are finally here, because this falls in line somewhat with my speculation before the season began, namely that they would have their own plan that would clash with what Watts was scheming. Or in this case, it looks like they're going to use him as a distraction so that way they can follow through with their own plans. And I think that it is really significant that they bring it in for this particular episode, because it kind of leaves us in the dark for the next 4. When you watch the opening to the series, or in this case to this particular season, it always gives some hints and nods as to what we can expect. And a lot of that has been the fighting within Mantle and Watts and Tyrion and what it is that they're getting up to. And there's nothing about Cinder and Neo. So them coming on in means that we're going to have some neat Dark Horse moments. And that honestly, we should no longer rely on what we think we know for what is coming up ahead. I think that that is pretty well played, and it's now anyone's guess as to what they're going to do. Obviously, Cinder would love to kill the Winter Maiden and claim the relic that it was as within Atlas. However, both are high military secrets, and it's highly unlikely that that kind of information is just floating about in the Schnee Manor. Neo, when she went into that meeting, could be picking up some kind of important information that will help them out for whatever plot they have. Or maybe she swiped something from Ironwood, and Cinder definitely says that it is something that they're both looking for. It's a tantalizing mystery. I can't wait to see what comes next. My best guess is that they are looking for something and probably stole something that Ironwood brought with him. Cinder is no fool, and she is determined to get her hands on more power. The Schnee family is rich and influential, yes, but Ironwood is the true power within Atlas. So most likely what they got from the manor was not something that belongs to the Schnee family, but probably something that belongs to Ironwood and will help to expose his plans and topple them. And I think that this will be the villain's next big win, right as Watts and Tyrion meet their defeat within Mantle. All in all, I think that this episode was really good, and I am getting to like the season as a whole much better. It still needs to be careful with how it uses its time and what it chooses to focus on. With only 4 episodes left to go and so much going on, I expect them to be fast-paced and full of meaningful moments. Now is not the time to be like the first half of the season where they pump the brakes to do winks at the audience and say, look at what we're doing here. I've said it before and I'll say it again, that is not good writing. That is pandering, which never works in the long run. So I'd like to hear what you guys think about the season so far, and what are your impressions of the episode as above, so below? What do you think Cinder and Neo are really after? I'm looking forward to this next block of episodes, and I hope you are as well, and I would love to hear whatever theories you guys have. Until then, I encourage you to check out our other RWBY videos, and if you are a writer looking for some solid writing advice beyond me just telling you to not pander, go check out our podcast, Camille's Harem. And until the next video, y'all, tschüss.